Well, hello there, my beautiful friends and fellow space blobs. We are here today to talk about one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite archetypes. I'm a little bit partial to it. It is Leo. I am a Leo sun, so this is my birthday season, and happy birthday to all the Leos out there. This is such a special energy to me in my life, and has meant a lot to me to explore over the years. And actually, I feel like the last few years I've been kind of exploring other aspects of myself, other archetypes, other ways of moving through the world. And it feels kind of nice to come back to this topic and remember some of the beauty and the fire and the poetry of Leo, and feel that maybe some of that is rekindling in me and kind of coming home to some of those essential pieces of my experience of the world. So I've also been feeling a homecoming to this sign recently. And this Leo season is so powerful because we have a Venus retrograde in Leo, which I am actually a huge fan of. And if you don't know by now, I am going to be leading a 6-week journey through Venus retrograde over on my Patreon. It's called The Alchemy of Venus Retrograde. And every single week I am going to offer up thoughts and ideas about Venus's journey through that 6 weeks, because it's very alchemical. It's very much about entering the underworld and coming into rebirth. So it's going to be a great process for processing how you've changed, who you've become. I really want to offer up this delicious warm space for all of Leo season, for all of Venus retrograde. So if you are looking for a little bit of that rekindling energy, I would love to see you over on Patreon. It's for all my patrons. And the upper tier, we will also be talking our way through Venus retrograde on our live calls. So I am very excited to see you all there for that. But let's get into this Leo season and why this Venus retrograde Leo season is so beautiful, and how to connect with this archetype and some of the ways that I love working with it. We are going to talk about Leo 101 today, and then I am going to explore some of the themes that I think will be coming up for this season, some of the transits, and then we will end with an intuitive card conversation. So I'm really excited to get into it. Let's do it. Leo, the fixed fire sign, which means this is all about sustaining our flame through life. This is not about the quick and hot burn that happens, but how we create warmth and safety and imagination in our lives and sustain it over a really long period. So this sign is ruled by the sun. This is about that warm energy that makes so much possible in our lives. It is connected to the heart. This is a sign connected to how we live through the heart, through the clarity and purity of the heart as the vessel through which so much of life makes sense. This sign is connected to symbols like the Sun card and the Strength card, these really powerful symbols of connecting with, yes, our intelligence and our ability to think about life, but also our wild nature, and how we move through life, and how these two things need to come into communion together, that our wildness and our intellect need to find a way to be together in the world. And, often this sign is connected too with two very different and energetic types, which is the leader, the ruler, and children, which is so interesting, right? To have this dual dynamic going on of these two. Now, Leo always gets stereotyped. I think we all love to tease the fire signs, and why not? Fire signs are adorable, and when something is adorable, we have to tease it. And I think Leo gets plenty of teasing, just like Aries and Sagittarius and Gemini. All of them get teased, but Leo gets teased and stereotyped for being loud, loving attention, being egotistical, over the top, wearing bright colors, making everything about themselves, needing all the attention, being very loud. Those are kind of the things that we think of when we think of a fire sign in general. I feel like it's always those things. But it's really interesting to me how a lot of times these archetypes get stripped of their power, right? That's always our conversation at the beginning of every new season. How has an archetype gotten stripped of its power, its kind of depth and beauty, and made into this kind of superficial emblem of something in our consumer culture? And so for me, Leo is also just really about so many deeper themes. Leo is also, if you think about Leos that you know in life, they're fun loving, they're warm, they're playful, they're generous, they're charismatic, they're magnetic. They tend to bring a lot of warmth to a room, a lot of care, and there's a lot of attention to everything that's going on. And there's something so beautiful about that. You know, our world is so full of disdain for naive enthusiasm, for beginning, for being excited about something. Our culture really doesn't like the dreamy and hopeful, the playful, that childlike joy. I think also because Leo represents both the creative childlike joy of just going for something and seeing what happens, as well as the strength of owning your power and standing in that power and being your own person and not getting stepped on. Both of these are, you know, problematic for power structures, right? These both challenge those, both being willing to just try something and not be perfect at it and have that creative playfulness as well as owning our own space in the world. These are very, very powerful themes that run through every time we work with Leonine energy. Now, Leos themselves are, I love Leos. They're so important to me. I mean, obviously I'm a Leo, but also other Leos that I know in life. I always feel this like communion with them. But a lot of times people with strong Leo energy they bring a lot of light into the room. They bring a lot of warmth into a space, but they also have some really deep shadows, because the brighter the illumination, the sun, you know, the deeper the shadows, the deeper the depths go. And one secret thing I think about Leo energy in general is that it is about shining bright. It is about owning our space in the world. And Leo season always asks us to connect with that, but that also means that we will have to commune with the shadows that will eventually fuel that empowerment, but only when we have communed with them. And that goes back to the symbolism of things like the Strength card, because it is that communion with our wild nature that would like to be expressed in this life, and our more controlled intellectual nature, and the fact that these two need to be in communion in order for there to be a healthy sense of empowerment in our lives. So we're going to come back to that theme time and again. So themes for this particular Leo season, which I've already mentioned, this whole Leo season is going to be about Venus retrograde. The retrograde actually extends into the first part of Virgo season, and we are working with this energy. So it's all about rebirth and renewal. This is closing out an 18-month cycle with Venus. We just closed out an 18-month cycle with the nodes of the moon as well. So this Leo season is really about understanding how we've changed, accepting how we've changed, accepting how we've grown, and understanding that we can't do things the same way that we may have been doing them all the other years of our lives. There is an initiating process going on here during this season where we're going to be exploring how our path looks different now, and really acknowledging that, taking a moment to acknowledge that that is happening, which is so powerful. This is also going to be a season of listening to our heart, right? And I know we in this culture love to have this whole idea of heart and mind divide, which that is a thing for sure. But a lot of times the heart gets typecast into this sentimental kind of figure, right? That's just like, well, I just think he's so cute, so I'm going to throw away all my possessions and go with him, and everything else in your body is saying that's a really ridiculous idea. I think that is maybe one of the most important takeaways from this conversation today. Working from the heart is one of the truest spaces we have. This is going to be one of the more honest voices that we have in our body. It will tell us when things don't feel right. It will tell us when things feel very right. It connects us to our intuition. It will also give us the honest truth when we are in a situation that's not working for us anymore and saying, my love, we have to go. It will also tell us when it's time to be courageous enough to say something that we need or try for something that we need. This is the space where we actually have some of the deepest wisdom waiting for us. So one of the things I would say about this Leo season is take some time to really physically feel this whole heart area of your body. Notice what it feels and what it shows you in the day-to-day, in the tasks, routines that you have in your life. Notice what feedback it is giving you. Really make space for the heart wisdom to commune with you and speak with you. And just taking a little bit of time to be really aware of it can create so much space for wisdom. That's really going to be maybe the most essential thing to do for this entire Leo season, something that I would definitely recommend doing. There's a couple other themes that I just want to mention in conjunction with everything I've just said. One is going to be that this is going to be a season of storytelling, of weaving, of creating new creative stories about who we are in the world. And it's important that we acknowledge the ways we maybe have been talking about ourselves through our process over the last few years or across our whole lives, and acknowledging that some of those stories need refresh, and that we also want to take really great care and craft in the way that we commune with our initiate, with the self that is becoming and opening up in this season of rebirth and renewal as we move through the Venus retrograde. So it's important that we take time as well to connect with our storytelling. And also, this is a season that will be about noticing what we don't want to uphold anymore. So that can be projects, it can be routines, it can be relationships, it can be a thought pattern, it could be whatever we want it to be. It's all going to be different for every single one of us. And if you haven't checked out my Venus retrograde chat yet, I'd highly recommend that, because, there's a lot of times you'll hear with Venus retrograde, relationships are just going to go away and all of that. But it's really not about that. It's about really being honest with ourselves about what we want to continue doing. Once again, Leo is about the sustaining fire, the fire that we can think about waking up every day for a long time doing, connecting with. So this is a really great season of reassessment about what we don't want to uphold anymore. And that can be bittersweet. It can be surprising sometimes. Sometimes we'll just get that clarity of this is time for me to change. So there's this really beautiful, sweet softness to this whole season. And I want us to just care for our creative inner child, care for our creative inner artist, care for the self that maybe isn't feeling comfortable in environments and routines that are no longer working, and really taking the time to hear that and witness that and take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves into this next cycle that is opening up. Let's talk about transits that are happening this Leo season and what that's going to feel like. Once again, I think the core of this season is really going to be this Venus retrograde, which starts on the day the sun moves into Leo. So the sun moves into Leo around the 22nd, depending on where you are in the world. And then Venus retrograde begins in Leo. That Venus retrograde goes until September 3rd. And this is really, like I've mentioned, this whole conversation has really been covering this Venus retrograde in so many ways, but this is really going to be a Leo season of exploring what it means to live life through the heart. If we're actually listening to that heart center, that's giving us that clear, honest information, what happens? I know that can be very scary. That's super vulnerable. There are things that are in our hearts often that it would be so scary to tell our partner or tell our friends or act upon. So this is really just about acknowledging and witnessing that and asking the question, what if I was allowed to trust it? This is also going to be a season of rebirth. Venus's new cycle begins at the heart of her whole retrograde. So this is also just a season of reset, of understanding, of reemergence as well. On July 23rd, we have Chiron going retrograde in fellow fire sign Aries, and that will be until December, almost the end of the year, really. And every year Chiron goes retrograde for 5 months. And every year we have this little window to really understand that what we think of as our fatal flaw, the thing that we'll never be able to move past, is one of the key ingredients into understanding what we can give to the world, how we can help, how we can heal ourselves, and just being able to see it with clearer sight, I think, and understand the ways that it has shaped and molded the way we experience this world, and giving a lot of compassion to that. I love Chiron retrograde. I find it to be so, so beautiful. On July 28th, Mercury is going to move out of Leo and move into Virgo, into a sign that it rules. So it's very at home here. And this is going to be all about telling stories that nourish our soul. So I think this is a great time to read books that just bring you to life, write, journal, paint, do any creative things that will help you tell a story that just lights your inner lantern, that brings you to life. Give that priority as we enter into August. The full moon happens on August 1st, the Aquarius full moon, one of the most powerful full moons every year. Every year, this Aquarius full moon, I swear, just gets me. I go through a whole illumination. I have a really big thing for Aquarian energy. I think it's so beautiful and inspiring. So I do have a little bit of a bias to it. But this full moon is going to be really full of supportive energy, actually, really, really powerful, potent storytelling energy once again. And it's about seeing our process, how far we've come, what we've moved through, acknowledging just how big some of our transitions and growth have been. And that, we say this all the time, but seriously, when you take a moment to sit down and really hear it out, wow. Wow. It can be so, so powerful. And this can be really, really freeing for you. If you're feeling scared of what the next chapter is going to be, realizing what has just elapsed can make you realize how much can happen that we don't realize is going to happen. So this is a really big moment of acknowledgement. And then August is somewhat quiet. We'll continue to work with Venus retrograde, of course. And then on August 16th, we have the new moon in Leo as we get close to the end of Leo season. And this is about kind of connecting with the decisions we've made so far in our heart and shining a light on our path. Once again, it works with this Aquarius full moon in that it's understanding how we've changed. This full moon also, or new moon, also connects with Lilith. So this is a time to think about the ways we are ready to break free of who we've been expected to be, of who we've been expected to embody, of the rules we've been expected to follow. This is going to be a new moon about what rules we have in place about how we use our creativity and our energy in this world, and really being aware of that. And that really is like the last puzzle piece of this Leo season. On August 22nd, the sun will move out of Leo and into Virgo. And we'll still be doing the Venus retrograde at that point. But there is just something so powerful and crisp and clear about this Leo season. There is this very honest, earnest kind of energetic quality to the whole conversation that I think is so, so powerful. I'm really curious to see what intuitive wisdom wants to come through at the end of our conversation here today. 5 of Pentacles, there's that shadow that the sun can cast sometimes, right? There is an acknowledgement of the places we feel we aren't allowed to enter. The joy, the new beginnings, the creativity, the places we feel like we're cut off and unworthy. And I think it makes so much sense, if 6 of Swords, how we have changed, the shores we are leaving, really acknowledging what we're ready for. There is this sweet softness to this time of year where it's like, yeah, I'm somewhere different now. And I do feel ready to death. Wow, we are getting really powerful cards for this season. And I don't want anyone sitting here with me today to feel intimidated by this. I think there's so much superstition around things like Venus retrograde and the way that, life moves. But I think two cards wanted to show up, two aces. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I just got supported in what I was about to describe, which is that in being with ourselves, in hearing our heart song, and being with our fears and rules and places in ourselves where we feel constricted, we create space for the next thing. And that's the dynamic, beautiful dynamic and dynamism of Leo. That is what happens when you work with Leo energy. So let's talk first about these two. Five of Pentacles and Six of Swords. Five of Pentacles is so important. It plays a role in most people's lives, our whole lives. It's something that we experience. For me, coming into the world and experiencing the world as an individual brings about a feeling of Five of Pentacles. Five of Pentacles represents when we feel we've been cast out. There's so much symbolism in all the storytelling of being cast out of the beautiful world, of the forgotten world, of this world beyond our world, and the pain that comes with that. And this card also, I think, represents so many of us who have had trauma and abandonment and different themes like that. And connecting with this part of ourselves, understanding it is there, especially when we are growing, is so important. And also that there's a lot of beauty here, and understanding ourselves and allowing ourselves to move forward. And when we commune with this part of ourselves, it allows us to be alive in the world. It allows us to move into the world. It also allows us to move into the Six of Swords energy, which is that acknowledgement that we have changed, that we have grown, that we do need to leave some shores, some routines, some identities, some ways of relating to the world. And it's time. And there's just like this soft acknowledgement here that it's time. Now, death makes perfect sense in relationship to Venus and Venus retrograde, because Venus retrograde is really tied to things like Isis and Inanna, these old stories about death and rebirth and the way that works. Now, death is the number 13 in the major arcana, which is like very near the center of the whole process. And so what this really is not so much about endings as about the renewal process. There's even this big sunrise here in the death card. Almost always there will be a sunrise happening. And this is an acknowledgement that our shape has changed, our form has changed, and it's important we acknowledge it and not pretend like everything is just status quo, because certain things need to release, and it's time for some new energetic chapters to start. And the sooner that we just give space for that, express it to our loved ones, those that we feel safe with, have conversations about it, explore it together, the lighter we're going to feel. So it's just a recommendation, I'm taking that to heart myself. And then we have our two pentacles here. There is rebirth. I think we'll find as we move through August, the energy is going to have a lot to do with new sparks, new connective tissue, new answers, new aha moments, new, oh, I get it now, I understand. And the aces always inherently acknowledge that we've just been through a moment that has felt like a 10, that has elapsed into a new beginning. So something has left. There has been a space that's been created that is now filling with new things. And I do think there is an excitement and an anticipation crackling in the air as we move through Leo season, especially if we are willing to acknowledge how we've changed and grown, and we are willing to sit with those uncomfortable feelings at times. There is this great connective opening going on. So I'm really curious about this Leo season, and it has been so much fun to chat about it with you all. And I'm so curious to hear what it means for you, what Venus means for you, what Leo means for you. Let me know. And I hope to see you over on Patreon for that Alchemy of Venus retrograde. I would love to be a part of ushering in some of this new energetic work and creating that space for you to process and feel, and then also create the capacity for holding new visions in your body and in your heart space. I'd love to help you do that. So yes, I hope to see you there, and maybe I'll see you on Instagram or my website. You can check me out in all those places. And every time that you sit with me here means so much to me. It allows me to keep doing this work. So every like, every subscribe, every comment means the world to me. Really, truly, it does. Thank you for being here. And I will see you so soon for our next chat, my beautiful friends.